All right. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, everyone, for coming out. I was trying to think of a way. This program has been very helpful, and having the classes, the other writers, and just kind of being around the Hugo house has all been very helpful. And I was trying to think of a way to give back a little bit. And I know the Hugo house has been going through not necessarily rebranding, but gathering information to come up with a new website, a new logo, and I know it might be pretty late in that process, but I thought I would offer a suggestion. I'm no graphic designer, but I didn't really want to prepare for the reading, so I used some clip art. Richard Hugo, one of my favorite poets, great Northwest figure. I read Triggering Town probably 10 years ago, and he said, buy a national brand chemistry notebook and write in it, and I did, and I've been doing that ever since. This is probably like my 20th of them. So he's a great figure, but there are also many other notable Hugos out there. And one I thought might be really good was Hugo Chavez. So this is just you can see here it says, the devil is right at home. The devil himself is right in the house. If I had tape, I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to read a poem that is new today. I haven't even typed it out yet. Kiko is missing. For a while, if I didn't have a title, I would put Kiko is missing as the title for the poems, because there are signs for a missing cat in my neighborhood called Kiko. And there's something about Kiko is missing that was so much better than missing cat, Kiko, or something like that. So it kind of stuck in my head. Kiko is missing. But her picture is everywhere, and her owner, my neighbor, paces the living room, talking to the tessellations of her carpet, but not to Kiko, who is missing. My grandmother spoke to patterns too. She refused to look up from the museum's marble tiles to see the sculptures. She said, my niece writes wonderful poems, but she had no niece and hardly had me in mind, so I drove her home down Richmond's wide Confederate boulevards, down cobblestone streets, when she said, I am no longer the person who used to try everything, and gave me my grandfather's axe. I replaced the head, then I replaced the handle. It is my axe now. So the manuscript, You Troubler, does not actually have, I don't think on the finished version there will be a Taylor Swift quote on it, although if you do type in You Troubler, the top hits on Google are all the video and song lyrics for her song, I Know You Were Trouble, or Knew You Were Trouble, which if anybody's familiar with that video, it kind of, it takes place in a post-apocalyptic, post-Coachella desert landscape. And there's a gentleman that she's into who looks like trouble. And so there are parallels with the biblical story of Elijah. Obviously Elijah in the desert causing trouble for King Ahab and that type of thing. So they're closely connected. But the real epigraph, I think, it's still up in the air a little bit, but might be from this George Oppen poem called If It All Went Up in Smoke. If it all went up in smoke, that smoke would remain the forever savage country poem's light borrowed light of the landscape, and one's footprints praise from distance in the close crowd all that is strange, the sources, the wells, the poem begins, neither in word nor meaning, but the small selves haunting us in the stones, and is less always that than help me. I am of that people the grass blades touch. and touch in their small distances, the poem begins. I am of that people the grass blades touch. I love that. Okay. Jury duty. In this weather, all dogs move like wild dogs. Metal claws root out worms and shells in saber-toothed jaws. Above me, a zeppelin's proud gut. Pigeons wheel beyond the courthouse. A vendor scoops a cantaloupe, then hands me its skull. I am a fox. I am supposed to die. Just 2 beers, and I feel like my earliest self. Cheeks rosy in the glow of elk horns. Little brain, I string you like popcorn from the pine. So there's one section of the manuscript I'm working on that is based on poems that I first started in Matthew Rohrer's class here. He kind of had us invent a form that was supposed to generate poems. And I did that, and then I kind of pushed them all together and then made new poems, but that's where these came from. So some of these, I'll tell you a bit later. This one's called A Ring for Each Finger. Tomorrow I'll embrace the future as presented in the whir of passing clouds, or else hear my mother call me from a rainstorm. Blackberries and crows have the same small motors, and each seems unduly free. My neighbor winds his convertible through traffic, though last night the hardtop was stolen. He's always taking these risks. He still skateboards with teenagers. The first of the month prompts folks to carry oblong objects up the hill. Tomorrow, I'll be my own oblong object. My shirt will soak with the season. My brow will sweat onto the book I read, a Chilean novel where natives descend upon the settlement at nightfall. Today's online offense is that some soldiers pin notes to the chests of sleeping children. It's a story as old as power. Remind them you're there. Do it as they're sleeping. I started reading a book, I don't know why I got interested in this, but I started reading a book about late night television, The Late Shift, which is kind of this really unnecessarily in-depth insider account of how Jay Leno ended up with the Tonight Show and late night and all, Letterman and all that type of stuff. And I think it came from watching David Letterman and thinking, I don't really watch him that often because it's kind of boring, but he's so obviously talented, but he seems so disinterested, but he also seems like it's the only thing he cares about. So I don't, at least personally, from what I've read, that was personally. So this is called Late Night. The maroon-coated doorman is one of 4 humans who the television host speaks to before going on air and speaking to millions. First is good morning to the driver, then a quick chat with a sound engineer with whom he shares a smoke, and finally, the daily call to his sister in Des Moines or Jimmy in Indy who loves to talk sports. We can go on believing in fame as the same perseverant siren, or just admit our country is a kind one, democratic with its loneliness. This year, there's no capital for the fireworks show, but the ad hoc explosions are always more freeing. On a rooftop in summer, who can't forgive the trimmings they used to fill the sausage? Tomorrow, I'm bound to sleep all day. Sleep. That's the one true thing. Let's see. Football season just started. I'm a New England Patriots fan, which not many people like. And especially a big boo this year because of, I wrote this poem this summer when the news about Aaron Hernandez, the Patriots tight end, was breaking, and his, it seemed it seemed he's a murderer. He was also my favorite Patriots player. So this is about, Aaron Hernandez, maybe a little bit of Breaking Bad, and then it starts with Caravaggio. My White Hat. Everyone writes about the same painter because he killed. Everyone watches the same television show because of revealing some dark truth. I'm everyone despite my television and despite my anti-heroes. I'm that musty taste in the pillow. I break and root for a terrible person. Go, go, go is one of my cheers. Now you've often become the next Mr. Murder. Don't I do that myself? I wrote some poems based on names because I was looking at my poems and I decided that I'd never use names, so I said, I'm going to put some names into poems. And so some of them are about names, some of them just use names, which is not very revolutionary. But this one is named Clinton, and it's named after a close friend's baby, who they named Clinton. My friend Bridget named her kid Clinton, which was awesome. So, Clinton. I say, no more babies named after presidents, save one, who is the perfect baby president, and won't botch Reconstruction. He will leave the barony dormant to become our first BMX superstar, and after whose naming the paper pushers in the Department of Cognomination will return to their historical soaps and watch a royal's mistress sweat to death, will rehang framed magazine covers of the new model Army circa 1985, or maybe for the night tuck into an episode of Shark Week, which, by the way, do you know what a wobbegong is? There was one on the subway tonight with banded brown and white skin. Rufus said it looked like a carpet. This is another name poem. The party was 2 miles down Route 1 past Arby's. I was driving 5 miles per the speed of my engine's need. I was with Kate, though she was enamored with Gil, which is not how he said his name in college. I didn't begrudge Gil, not exactly, but still had to ask, is your success directed at me? It was the day before Easter. It was the day before Easter. Congratulations, read the church marquee. Came prepared, I guess. Screen memory. I asked how he knew so much of dreams, and he told me he was put on drugs and put on Freud and then put on a show for the doctors. I had no sense for his oniera. I made this word up, so I don't know how to say it. Oniric means of dreams, so I figured oneria. I had no sense for his oneria, but understood his flair for the dramatic. Has flair for drama, I wrote on my sketch pad. We were taking notes for the screenplay, but all we had was the finale. We'd build a snowman in the rest area. We'd be just a little too happy. Basically, we'd act embarrassingly American. Scarecrow. Our game was, I would ascertain the broad beauty of a particular landscape, and he would stand still as a closed motel within my field of vision. He need only assume a posture of flight. Crows wouldn't stick around for the exception. He told me Any friend too familiar grows useless. Early dismissal. The children are practically cartwheeling out of their flesh. Okay, so I'm going to read one more. So this is a poem about Antiques Roadshow. Vow. The auctioneer claims the frame is worth more than its painting, so perhaps we should have left things unappraised. Sometimes not knowing is the only moral emotion, and we should make it a staple of our diet. We should make it actually hold our guts together. The guts we fill because you are an unlikely hunter, and you raise the rabbit by its ears and say, "Does it surprise you? And will you eat it?" And it does, and I will. Thank you.